So joining me now is Dan Geltrude, managing partner at Geltrude and Company, a financial consulting firm. Dan, it is good to see you. What do people need to know as they prepare their taxes for next year?
Well, you may be getting an additional 1099, specifically a 1099K, for income which you may not have reported in the past. So as you alluded to before, what we have now is that these payment apps, whether it's Venmo or PayPal and so on, in the past were not issuing 1099s unless it was over $20,000 in payments or 200 transactions. That's now been lowered to $600. So more or less, all the transactions related to payments now are going to be captured. So there are many small businesses out there that are not used to having that additional income. And by the way, it was taxable in the past, but the IRS did not have that matching between the 1099 and the tax return to be able to know whether it was being properly declared. By doing this with the 1099K, they are going to be able to turn all of that additional income taxable, which hadn't been the case in the past.
Okay, any sort of estimate, Dan, as to how much more taxable income the IRS will be looking at because of this change?
Well, I don't have the exact number, and I'm not sure the IRS knows that because these numbers have never been reported before. However, I would anticipate that it's going to be significant. When you think about how many people get paid running small businesses, let's say they're selling things through eBay, and in the past, they've never picked up this income before. So it's really something that's really difficult to figure out what that number could be. But I would suspect it's going to be pretty significant when you add up all these small numbers, become a pretty big number for the federal government.
Okay, so let's say, Dan, you received a personal gift or even a reimbursement. Would you be expected to get one of these 1099K forms? Does it apply to you?
No, it doesn't. It actually applies to when you are purchasing goods or services. So when you actually look at an app like a Venmo, it asks you the question about what this payment is for. And if you are reimbursing somebody or a gift, no, that is not subject to tax. But here's where it does get tricky for so many people, and this is where the burden comes in. Let's say you have a small business and your business primarily transacts on eBay. Let's take a very simple transaction. You sell something for $1,000. Now that $1,000 is over the 600 new threshold. So now you're going to get that 1099K that has $1,000 on it. However, let's say whatever you were selling cost you $900. That means the taxable amount was only $100, not $1,000. So all these small businesses are going to have to keep all the supporting documents to be able to show that the tax is not due on $1,000, but it's due on the net, which in this example would be $100. And that's why this new rule is really burdensome on small businesses. And I suspect, because there is some bipartisan support on Capitol Hill to say, hey, we have to go back and look at the American Rescue Plan and look at this specific area and take a look at whether we really want to do something like this.
So, Dan, I know you mentioned, obviously, the impact to small businesses. If you're an individual trying to prepare for your taxes next year, what sort of documents should you be setting aside and organizing here as the tax reporting season is just around the corner?
Well, I mean, just in general, you want to make sure that you're able to capture all of those documents. And in this particular case, with the 1099K, it's very easy to forget about that. So now you put all your documents together because you didn't have it last year. And now you turn around and file your tax return and forget about this 1099K. So what happens? Now you're going to get a little love note from the IRS that says, wait a minute, you have additional taxes due. And now it goes to, well, is it on the gross or the net? So again, this is why this becomes so burdensome for so many people. So the main thing to know is if you're transacting on one of these online apps,
Yes.
keep in mind that you may very well have some additional taxes due and tax documents.
Dan, we got to go. Thank you so much for joining. Dan Geltrude, managing partner at Geltrude and Company.